I think a couple of things really come into sharp focus. I mean, we've already got in Australia a pretty strong uptake of the internet. And in fact, Australia was a really early adopter of the internet. It's been a slower adopter of broadband. But if you look back 10 years ago, Australia had a fairly high and rapid uptake of the internet. We clearly found it compelling. Same way we found with mobile phones. I mean, they're things that let us do things we care about. And I think moving forward to a faster network, it creates a possibility of a wider set of experiences. And the one that always gets bandied around is in the entertainment space, right? You'll be able to download a movie in 5 minutes. Okay, that's great. You know, more entertainment content we know is never a bad thing, and in fact, we all like it. But we also know it's going to have impact in other spaces. Once you have a network of the kind of bandwidth and speed that's being anticipated, this means you and I could go to our doctors, get our mammograms, and have the doctor be able to pull up last year's mammogram as a digital image and compare them both while we sat there. As opposed to what we know happens now, where you go and you're lucky enough if they'll call you back in 6 weeks and tell you that everything's fine. Imagine being able to do that in the same half an hour. You know, I think for most Australian women that might be an interesting relief. Think about all the other things that become possible in the medical space that way. It opens up remarkable potential in education, particularly when you look at how much of South Australia, how many towns there are outside of Adelaide where there are kids at school, kids in TAFE, where there are people who really want to engage with higher education, but for whom the only way to do that is to come to Adelaide. A high-speed network starts to allow you to imagine really good video conferencing. It starts to let you think about having a professor in Adelaide delivering a lecture to someone in Andamuka. It makes all of that really possible. And then beyond the kind of practicalities of those sorts of things, there's some other stuff that you can start to imagine that could be really game-changing. The kind of broadband that's anticipated might let you do really good smart electrical meters. I know, again, does not sound sexy, but it would mean you could do real-time load sharing and load shedding and not have where we were earlier in 2009, where half of South Australia found itself without electricity and with no warning. So you could actually do a lot level of granularity of paying attention there. And that technology lets you start thinking about sustainability differently, it lets you start thinking about water differently, lets you think about transportation differently. I mean, South Australia's clearly got a big commitment to public transportation in Adelaide. And we look at some of the other countries around the world that have the kind of networks we're anticipating, it allows for really meaningful changes in a public transportation network. I mean, Singapore's the obvious example, where you can actually do this incredibly sophisticated management of where cars and people and resources are and start to manage traffic jams and congestion and changes in petrol prices. And all of that stuff starts to come into play. So in some ways, there's things that we can meaningfully kind of anticipate with a new network, but I think there's a whole lot of things that get created that might surprise us. And in fact, truthfully, that would be a good thing if they did.